Hi, and welcome to the Nourish Not Punish workshop. I'm Miranda. If we've not met before, I'm so thrilled that you're here. So before we go any further, let me just briefly introduce myself. I am a health coach and a positive psychology coach, but I also have a background in yoga. I have been on my own journey from disordered eating, where I used to restrict what I was eating, and my worth was based on how small I was, to what I describe now as food freedom, where I'm choosing to care for myself with the food choices that I make. So, what I intend to highlight for you in this workshop is how you, if you have what many of my clients would describe as a complicated relationship with food, a bingy relationship with food, a tricky relationship with food, a punishing relationship with food. If any of that resonates, then that's exactly the type of client who I work with. And I hope to show you in this workshop 3 ways in which you can help to move yourself and shift your mindset away from that punishing mentality and away from, not showing yourself kindness through your food choices to showing yourself love and showing yourself how you can take care of yourself through the food choices that you make. So, goodbye food shame and hello healthy eating without dieting. As you can see from this photo here, I have a gorgeous black Labrador. He is just lying down by my feet right now. So, hopefully, he's going to stay sleeping. But if you hear any noise in the room, it's just him shuffling about. But hopefully, he's been for a good enough walk that he'll stay sleeping. So let's start by breaking down what the word nourish means, because obviously the name of this workshop is Nourish Not Punish. So this is just a dictionary definition. To sustain with food, supply what's necessary for life, health, and growth. To cherish, foster, and keep alive. To strengthen and build up. Now, what I think is particularly, like, for me, the word that really stands out is the one I've highlighted: to cherish, to take care of, to show love. Like that for me is what nourishment means. It means to, yeah, to really take care of through our food choices. Now, on the other hand, we have the word punish. So, punish means to subject to a penalty for an offense, sin, or fault, to inflict a penalty for an offense, or to handle or use roughly, damage, or hurt. Now, it is my opinion that diets are a form of punishment. Diets are a way in which we can be harming ourselves. We can be, giving a punishment for an offense that has occurred, which is normally eating something that we don't think that we should have eaten. Obviously, it's a way in which we can create, we have rules that we follow, and if we're not following those food rules, then we deserve punishment. We deserve to restrict what we're then eating, or change our meal for the next meal that we're having. So diets to me are a form of punishment, and like I said, I have been on my own journey from disordered eating, and I know that when I was restricting myself, I was not loving myself. I was not taking care of myself. I was hating myself for who I was, even though I was, very slim. Not that that matters, but just as an aside, I was, but I didn't love myself, even though I had a smaller body. And I say that just because a lot of people assume, well, if I did already have the body that I wanted, I, would eat well, I would eat healthily, I would show myself care, I wouldn't feel guilty. And I can promise you through, working with my clients and through my own journey, like that's not true. It's not what size your body is. It's your mentality and your mindset around how you're feeding yourself. And this is a question that I'd love for you to consider. When did you stop eating normally? When did you stop eating normally? Chances are it was right after you tried your first diet. Now, like, you may not resonate with the word diet. Not all of my clients do, because diet, it doesn't necessarily mean that you dieted. It could mean that you restricted in some way. It could mean that you just had food rules. It could mean that you, like, even, as I did for a period of time, I thought that I was eating just like really healthily. But the truth is that was still a form of dieting. Like, even though I thought that I was eating healthy foods and I was caring for myself, because my mindset wasn't in the right place, actually that was still a form of dieting. So even if you don't resonate with the word diet, think about, when did you stop eating? Like, when did you begin to have a complicated relationship with food? Or when did you start to feel that what you were eating needed to be changed or shifted or controlled in any kind of way? And yeah, it might not be after you tried your first diet, but it might be after you began to manipulate what you were eating, manipulate um, what you did when you felt hungry. Like, you didn't eat even though you felt hungry, for example. So this is typically what the diet cycle looks like. And again, switch the word diet with anything that resonates more with you. But so first of all, we go on a diet. So that looks like restricting either calories or restricting food groups, generally speaking, which leads to cravings and hunger. That then very often leads to this fuck it moment where we just like can't do it anymore, which then leads to feelings of guilt and shame. And then, going back to what we talked about the word punishment, we feel this guilt and shame. And so now we need to punish ourselves by going back on the diet, going back to restricting ourselves. And so the cycle goes on. And so I often say that the only way to break the cycle is to break the cycle. And we'll get more into that in a minute. But before that, let's address the elephant in the room. You likely tried a diet, or you likely, started restricting the way you were eating or not listening to your hunger because you wanted to lose weight. Or even if you didn't want to lose weight, you felt that you should change your body in some kind of way. You felt that for some reason your body wasn't good enough as it was and that you needed to change it. So you likely tried a diet because you felt that you weren't good enough as you were. The truth is that when we focus on weight loss, i.e., follow a diet, it's going to lead to more disordered eating, like binge eating, obsession around food, secret eating, which is when you eat something in secret, like, standing at the pantry or eating and then like hiding the wrappers, not wanting anyone to see what you've eaten. Overeating, so just again not listening to your body cues, having really bad cravings, all of this kind of disordered way of eating. So when we focus on weight loss, we're going to create more of these forms of disordered eating. But if we heal our relationship with food first, and then weight loss if we need to lose weight, and that's a really important, like, I wish I could circle it. That's a really important, if you need to lose weight, could be a natural byproduct. And so, yeah, I fully understand feeling more confident and comfortable when your body is, as you feel it, quote unquote, should be. I totally understand that, but it's also really important that we understand, and you might not be here yet, but knowing that in order to change our body, we need to love our body. Like, in order to change our body, we need to love our body. So we can change our body, but it has to come from a place of acceptance of how we are right now, with a desire to change it. And again, we're going to go into more detail on this, but if you are wanting to change your body from a place of punishment, of not being enough as you are, it's like, it's like slogging an old horse who's, just not got the fuel in the tank. It's a very unkind way of behaving. It's a very unkind thought form. And we can all resonate with looking in the mirror and not feeling like we look our best, but can you look in the mirror and know that you don't feel your best and yet decide that that doesn't have to mean that you're not enough, that, you're not worthy of taking care of yourself, that you should restrict, instead of restricting what you're eating or going on the next diet or over exercising or, having these like negative thoughts about yourself, can you not like how you look in the mirror and be like, okay, well, that's feedback, that's interesting, but I'm still going to, love myself, take care of myself. And on this journey that I'm on, I might make some effort and I might create a goal, a desire to lose some weight, but it's not going to be from a place of hating myself. It's going to be from a place of loving myself. And obviously that mindset, that difference is everything. It's also really important to know, and that's why I kind of said, like, let's highlight the word if you need to lose weight, because a lot of us can think that we need to lose weight when we don't actually need to lose weight. We've just, been sold on the thin ideal and like what society believes that we should like or should look like, or what our parents, or specifically normally our mums, have said that we should look like. But that doesn't necessarily mean that that is what we should look like. And so our happy weight isn't just a number on the scales, it's a feeling where you have energy, like consistent energy, you feel good. You have balanced hormones, so like regular periods, no like, crazy PMT. You fall asleep easily. You're not feeling like anxious at bedtime. Your mood is, generally lifted. You feel good. You feel buoyant, and you don't spend all day thinking about food. Like that's what your happy weight should be, and that might mean that it's not exactly the number you want it to be on the scales, but that's okay because it is so much better. Trust me, if you don't, if this isn't your belief yet, just trust me, it is so much better to be at your happy weight, encompassing all of these things, than at your ideal weight and feeling miserable, being food obsessed, not being able to go out to dinner with your friends, binge eating, and then, punishing yourself for doing it. All of these things, which at the end of the day probably only make you like a little bit lighter than your happy weight, and yet steal so much joy from your life, and it's just not worth it. So I really want you to know that food is not the enemy. Food is not the enemy. I mean, and it was for me for a long time. So perhaps you're like, the food is the enemy. Food, I'm trying to eat as little as possible. Food is just there to make me fat. So this is my goal, my intention through this workshop is to prove to you that food is not the enemy, that food is in fact your friend. Food is more than your friend. Food is there to give you life. Without food, you don't have life. So the first principle is to feed your body what it needs and what you enjoy. Feed your body what it needs and what you enjoy. So I teach my clients to use this framework, which is called the VIPs. And I have a podcast episode on this, which goes into this into more detail, but I'm just going to outline it for you. So the VIPs, the V stands for veggies or fruit. The I stands for important fats, the P stands for protein, and the S stands for something fun. And this is a framework, a guideline that you can use to create a balanced plate of food so that you're eating everything that your body needs to thrive without sacrificing some fun, some pleasure, some joy. So when you follow this principle, when you follow these guidelines of creating your plate of food using the VIPs, you fill up on nutrient-dense goodness, which is like the macronutrients that your body needs to thrive. You feel satisfied. Oops. You feel satisfied and you avoid cravings and binges. And so that's why there is, the S is something fun, because when we intentionally have some quote unquote unhealthy food, now, like, honestly, my version of unhealthy food is perhaps not somebody else's version of unhealthy food. But when I say unhealthy food, I mean essentially food that we're not using in terms of its macronutrients. We're having it for because we like the taste. Now, I will still avoid, but not completely avoid, ultra processed foods. I will opt for healthier versions of food that I enjoy. But that sometimes means that I'm going to have the full out unhealthy version without any feelings of guilt. But generally speaking, yes, I still want to be looking out for my body. I still want to be giving it the fuel that it needs to thrive. But making sure that I'm having that something fun means that we'll be less likely to unintentionally binge on an unhealthy food, later that day or at the end of the week, because we've been trying to be really good, really perfect, and then, not being able to sustain it and then going all out. So this is a way to help create balance, to help create moderation. And this is what I call the sweet spot. So we've got eating foods that provide your body with the nourishment it needs, and then eating foods that you enjoy without guilt, stress, or shame. And when you have the two of those, you create a positive relationship with food. And it isn't about this like either or. It's not like I'm on the wagon, I'm off the wagon, or I'm being good, I'm not being good. This kind of yo-yo mentality. It's all the same thing. It's all about nourishing your body. It's all about taking care of yourself. It's all about showing yourself love and kindness through your food choices. And that's why there needs to be some flexibility. There needs to be some fun. There needs to be some joy. And there also needs to be the like filling up on the nutrient dense foods. Does that make sense? I know I'm going through all of this very quickly because I was hoping to make this only 30 minutes long. So I know that I'm speaking quickly. Hopefully, maybe it's resonating with you and creating a new perspective. But yeah, I apologize that I'm speaking quickly. Okay, so second principle is to get out of the diet mentality. So diets perpetuate all or nothing thinking. So kind of what we were just talking about, like I'm either on a diet or I'm off a diet. I'm being really good or I'm not being good. Like, as I'm following the plan, I'm being perfect, or fuck it. Like I'm just doing whatever I want. So we need to break the cycle, like I already suggested, that in order to break that diet cycle, the only option that we have is to break the cycle. Otherwise, we'll just continue doing the same thing over and over again. We'll be in that restrict and deprive, and then that fuck it moment, and then we binge or we overeat or we eat foods that we don't consider good for us, and then we have to start it all again. And this is really important. Not a lot of people would think this, but this is the truth. Most people would not binge if they hadn't first deprived. It's an outcome of deprivation. And so we have to stop the deprivation, we have to stop the restriction in order to no longer be having the binge. And trust and control are opposite ends of the spectrum. Trust and control are at opposite ends of the spectrum. We think that what we need is to have more control. We're just like, well, if I had more willpower, if I was more disciplined, I need to have more rules. Like, I've had so many people ask me, just tell me the list of foods I can eat, tell me the list of foods that I can't eat. And like, that seems attractive, but it's not, because like, that's what people want. And it will work for a week or it will work for a month. And, for some people, it might work for a serious length of time, but it comes to the point where it's just no longer sustainable. It's very rarely enjoyable. It often doesn't work with what the body actually needs. And then it comes to a point of, and I say quote unquote fail because there's no such thing as fail. It's all information, it's all data, it all helps us to learn more about ourselves. And so there is actually no such thing as failure, but nonetheless, like, for lack of a better word, we'll get to this point where we feel like we've failed, and then we'll start the whole cycle over again. So it's not about having more control. It's not about having more rules. It's not about being more disciplined or being stricter with ourselves. It's actually learning to be able to trust ourselves. And here's a hard truth. Diets make us dumber. Now, obviously, I do not mean that you are dumb. I'm not insulting you at all. Um, so diets make us dumber because they move us away from listening to our natural biofeedback. Our natural biofeedback is our hunger, our cravings, our satiety, and we replace listening to our body with arbitrary rules, with rules that literally have just come out of normally a book or perhaps like an influencer or someone on Instagram, and or it's worked for your sister or your mum, and so now you're doing it and you're following these rules which are just kind of crazy. And then we have to ask ourselves, why are we even doing it? Like, why? Normally it's because we feel that we need to lose weight. Normally it's because we feel that we need to look different from how we look, which is a whole separate conversation, but definitely a necessary conversation to have, because you need to break down those beliefs and understand why you even think you need to look different from how you look. And the goal is to stop following these crazy rules and actually to get back to our body's innate intelligence. Our body's innate intelligence. Our bodies are so wise. They know how to create balance. They will send us the signals if only we will listen to them. But if we are replacing those signals with like, oh no, I can't eat now because, it's whatever time it is, or no, I can't have carbs because the book tells me I can't have carbs. Like, when your body is giving you information of what it needs. And like, this is the really sad thing. Like, your body will talk to you. Your body's talking to you all the time. It's your choice of whether you're listening to it or not. But it will get to a point where, those soft whispers are not being heard. And so it will have to like have a full-on tantrum. And this is often where we get sick. This is often where like disease comes from, because we haven't been listening to the quieter, softer, gentler nudges from the body. We'll wait until there's like an all-out tantrum, and like then our bodies are seriously unwell, and like then we're blaming our bodies when it was never the body's fault, never the body's fault. So diets have failed you. It is not the other way around. You have not failed at dieting. Diets have failed you. They have caused you to forget how to trust yourself around food. They have made you believe that eating is hard. They've caused you to believe that foods are either good or bad, safe or unsafe, which has led to viewing food as the enemy. Like I said, it is really my intention that if you were to get nothing else out of this workshop, that I help you to shift that mindset of believing that food is the enemy, to even like sowing the seed that food is your friend. Food is there to sustain you, to give you life, to help you to get through this life with energy and vitality and passion, and follow your purpose and be the full light that you are. Like, that is what food is there for. It is not like we've got to release this idea that food is there to make us thin or to make us fat. Like, that is just such a narrow way of seeing food. It's not what it's for. So the solution is to give up rules. Does that feel scary? Probably feels scary if you've been following diets and food rules. So take a deep breath into that one. The solution is to give up rules and perfection and learn how to navigate the middle. So this is a scale that I use with my clients, the deprivation indulgence scale. And we have on one end deprivation, like I have to be perfect or else. Then on the other end of the scale, we have indulgence. I ruined it, so I might as well go all out. And we're learning to navigate the middle. We're learning to be in that middle point, neither depriving nor being on the fuck it end of the spectrum, because being on the fuck it end of the spectrum doesn't feel good. Like, oh my gosh, it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good to be out of control around food. It doesn't feel good to be binging on food. It doesn't feel good to be, eating food out of the cupboard without sitting down, enjoying it nicely. And so, yeah, we want, but it also does not feel good to be on the deprivation side of the scale. I know some of you might think it feels good to be on the deprivation end of the scale. I know I did for a while, believe that it was good to be on the deprivation end of the scale, but on the whole, it doesn't feel good. At the end of the day, it doesn't feel good to be on the deprivation end of the scale. And, there's only so much time that we can be on that end of the scale until we swing the other way. So let's just save ourselves from doing that and learn how to navigate the middle. And so the goal is to feel satisfied at each meal, satisfied, like that. It's just like a feeling of good, like, yes, I feel nourished. I feel like I've taken care of my body, but also like not that you've deprived yourself, not that you've been like, no, I can't have that. And really what that comes down to is reframing everything as a choice. I choose to have this. I choose not to have that. Like, it becomes a choice. It becomes something that we are, not saying I can't or I should. It's all about I'm choosing to eat this way because it feels good to me. And that is so empowering when you get there. So the deprivation indulgence scale, learning how to navigate the middle between feelings of deprivation and feelings of overindulgence. And this will create balance, satiety, and will even out the highs and lows. It's a really useful thing to learn. So my third principle is become a woman on your own team. Become a woman on your own team. So eating challenges are intimately linked to nutrition, but they can't be solved by nutrition alone. Most people believe that guilt has utility. Like, yeah, hands up if you feel like guilt has utility. If guilt is like you need more self-discipline, you need to shame yourself, guilt yourself, have more willpower, have more motivation. Like, most people believe that that is the route that they need to take. Research shows that guilt is not an effective compliance tool. In fact, self-compassion is a much better compliance tool than guilt could ever be. So you do not need more willpower, you do not need more motivation or self-discipline. You need more self-love, more self-love. And like, this is shown in the research. And Dr. Will Cole says, you can't shame your way to health. You can't shame your way to health. You have to love yourself to health. That goes back to what I was saying about making choices. You're making choices. You're showing up for yourself. You're looking after yourself. You're choosing these foods because they nourish you. You're choosing these foods because you're choosing to take care of yourself. So the shame cycle, this, like we had the diet cycle, the shame cycle is pretty similar. Shame leads to self-destructive behaviors. So you do something harmful, you feel really bad about it, and out of self-loathing, you do it again. So again, we like create this sort of perpetual cycle that we can't get out of until we do something different. Now, Brené Brown says for shame to exist, it needs three things: secrecy, silence, and judgment. Secrecy, silence, and judgment. So this is a really powerful way that you can begin to break the shame cycle, is just by telling someone who's safe, telling someone who you trust that, I'm eating in this disordered way. I have these thoughts around food. I have this complication with food. I have these thoughts about my body. Like, finding someone safe to say that to, well, that breaks some of the secrecy and some of the silence. The judgment, you can choose to not judge yourself for how you're eating. You can choose to, take that judgment away. Perhaps it's the voice of someone else who's judging you. And, again, that's like working on your belief system. And remember that a belief is just a thought that we have most. So a belief is just a thought that we keep on thinking. We can change our beliefs by changing our thoughts. So you can release that judgment by creating a new set of thoughts, by believing I am not going to judge myself for the way that I'm eating. And that way you'll no longer have that shame, and you'll move yourself out of that cycle. I hope this is making sense. Just like food, our thoughts and emotions have the power to make us feel terrible or fuel our bodies with vibrant health. Just like food, our thoughts and emotions have the power to make us feel terrible or fuel our bodies with vibrant health. You can be eating all the kale, drinking all the green juice, following the plan. But if your mindset is not in the right place, you are not actually creating health. You're not creating vitality. You might think you are, but you're not. Our thoughts are really important. So this is one of the tools. This is one of my daughters, Jasmine. And I put a picture here of her because I think it's useful. If you do have children, you can think of it as one of your children, or you could think of it as a best friend. And the tool is to ask yourself, would I speak to anyone else like this? Would I speak to anyone else like this critically, this harshly, this unkindly? And that would be enough in the moment. That would be enough for you to be like, no, I would never fucking talk to my daughter like this. I would never tell her that she's fat, that she's ugly, that she's not good enough, that, I would never say these things to her. Why am I saying them to myself? And it's a process. Obviously, that's not an overnight fix, but it starts to break down the patterning so that you can create something new. And then there's also the choose again method, and this comes from Gabby Bernstein. So the choose again method is step one, notice the thought. And this is great to do in a journal. Notice the thought. Ask yourself, how do I feel right now? So maybe it's like you're comparing yourself to someone, or you catch a glance of yourself in the mirror and you have a thought like, I'm disgusting, or whatever it is. You ask yourself, how do I feel right now? Because we don't want to ignore those feelings. That's data, that's information. We want to look at it. We want to bring it into our consciousness so that we can release it and let it go, so that it doesn't continue to replay. So you notice the thought, ask yourself, how do I feel right now? Probably pretty shit, pretty inadequate, not worthy, not good enough. Forgive the thought. So don't add judgment, don't add guilt to having the thought. Forgive the thought. Thank your negative feelings for showing you what you don't want and revealing what you do. So if you don't want to feel shit, if you don't want to feel like you're not enough, if you don't want to feel that you're not worthy, what do you actually want to feel? You want to feel like you're enough. You want to feel like you're worthy. You want to feel good in your body. You want to feel comfortable. You want to feel at peace. You want to feel calm. And you get to choose again. This is step 3. What is the best feeling thought I can find right now? Now, you're probably not going to go from shit to, total appreciation, love, joy, etc. But what's a step up? Could you move from thinking, well, I look disgusting, to focusing on, well, my body is functioning. That's pretty great, because there are people out there who don't have legs. So even if I think my legs look fat, well, at least I fucking well have legs that can walk. Do you see how you can start to talk yourself around to not being in this negative spiral? And you just begin to talk yourself up into this positive spiral. And it works. I promise it works, but it does take practice. So I want you to imagine for a moment, if you can, close your eyes. Take a deep breath, let your shoulders drop, let your face relax. I've shared a lot of information. I've thrown a lot of different ideas at you. So just take a moment, maybe if you can, feet on the ground, maybe hand to the heart. Relax your face, relax your jaw, relax your shoulders away from your ears. And imagine what it would feel like if you could be calm with food. If you could eat beautiful, nourishing food. If you could be at a party and have a slice of pizza and it mean absolutely nothing. If you can have a slice of cake and have no desire to then binge on the whole cake, like just eat one slice of cake and be fully present with it, enjoy it, feel the like sense all of the flavors in the cake. Maybe even only eat half of the slice of cake because you're enjoying it, but you're also feeling like, oh, this feels very sweet. Like I'm enjoying it, but maybe I just want half, and maybe I want to have some fruit. Or I want to have something else that feels better in my body. And like not coming at that, not creating that decision from the place of, I can't eat sugar. I shouldn't eat sugar. Sugar's bad for my body. Not at all. Like from a very, very genuine place of like, oh, that was good, but that's enough now. Like, how would you feel in your relationships if you didn't have so much food noise? How would you feel in social situations, parties, dinners, holidays? How would it feel if you could look in the mirror and just be like, yeah, good enough, not perfect, not aiming to be perfect, good enough. Giving yourself a little smile and a high five, like, I've got you. How would that feel if you were to walk through your day with that kind of attitude? What would be different? So, opening your eyes as you're ready. So, I really want you to hear this. You have put yourself in a prison, and you don't realize that you're the one with the key to release yourself. You're the one. You're the one who can release yourself. You have to choose that you are worthy. You have to choose that you want something different, that you're ready to create a different reality, that you're not going to stand for this bullshit anymore. And you're going to, turn that key, walk out that jail, just like never look back. You got to make that choice for yourself. With the right combination, you can unlock the formula to stop punishing and to start nourishing. And so by nourishing, I mean nourishing mind, body, soul. I mean fully showing up and taking care of yourself and realizing yourself for all that you are, your inherent worthiness, the light that you are. And this is one of my favorite quotes. Stop wasting 95% of your life to be 5% smaller. Stop wasting 95% of your life to be 5% smaller. So, if you would like my support, here's how I can support you. I have a program called Done With Diets, which is a 6-week program, which will help you to break free from food obsession and confusion and help you to have that freedom that comes with a healthy relationship with food. So this is going to help you to have all that we just were talking about, having a happy, calm, easy, joyful relationship with food. And of course, your relationship with food is just a mirror for your relationship with yourself. So that's my program, Done With Diets. And that would be like a good fit for you if you want to feel calmer around food, if you want to be normal around food, if you want to eat healthy food without it being obsessive, if you want to eat a balanced diet, if you want to have an easy and simple relationship with food, if you want to enjoy food without guilt, if you want to show yourself love through your food choices, if you want to stop the ups and downs and eat the same way on Monday as you do on Saturday. And by the way, that doesn't mean like eating exactly the same food. It just means like not being on a diet on Monday and not binging on a Saturday. So if that sounds like might be interesting to you, then you can get all of the information and the details on my website, which is breatheeatmeditate.com/done with diets, breatheeatmeditate.com/done with diets. I also have a podcast if you want to tune into the podcast and just like get a bit more of a sense of like who I am and my philosophy and what I teach. So it's called the Positive Nutrition Podcast, and it's currently only on Spotify, soon to come on Apple. But at the moment, you can search on Spotify the Positive Nutrition Podcast and listen into the episodes there. And then I'm also on Instagram, and that's Breathe, Eat, Meditate. So I'm on Instagram at Breathe, Eat, Meditate. And yeah, I would love to support you, through my free content, or if you feel like you'd be interested in working with me, then yeah, you can always check out my program, Done with Diets, or any of my other programs too. And, I just want you to remember that you are worthy of nourishment. You are worthy of nourishment. And so, yeah, I hope this workshop has helped you, give you a different perspective. Hopefully, you have had some little light bulb moments and you feel like a little bit different about food and how you're going to nourish yourself. I'd love to have your feedback. If you have any questions, then please feel free to share them with me. And otherwise, wishing you a wonderful rest of the day. Thank you for joining me for this workshop, and speak to you guys soon. Bye.